Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pierrick Martel. I'm in charge of product marketing here at Centreon. Centreon is a leader in IT infrastructure monitoring, both for cloud infrastructure and on-premises infrastructure. Centreon is available both in open source and commercial editions. So Centreon can be used as a SaaS solution. We call it Centreon Cloud, or it can be deployed in your own infrastructure, self-hosted, and we call that Centreon on-premises. Today, I am with Olivier Mercier. Hi, Olivier.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining me today. Olivier, you're one of Centreon's product manager. You are in charge of the pollers that collect the information, the connectors or plugins and plugin packs. We have about 700 of them. Everything about configuring the monitoring through the web user interface, through the APIs, or with the auto-discovery engine, which is the subject of this webinar. In the satisfaction survey that we send at the end of each webinar, and you will receive one after this webinar, we are regularly asked to explain the whole of a functionality through a use case instead of describing all the little additions that we do, software versions after software version. So let's do that today about auto discovery. The agenda for this webinar is pretty simple. I will let you share your screen right now so that you can walk us through a use case of configuring monitoring with Centreon and Auto-discovery. And after this use case, we will have a question and answer session. So please, ask your questions. There is a special tool which is called questions and answers. This is where you should ask your questions, and we will answer them at the end after the use case demonstrations. All right, so are we all set, Olivier?
Okay, thank you. As you said, I'm going to present a use case about what host discovery can do for you if you have been using Centreon for several years. You have configured your monitoring tool manually. I'll show you the configuration. So I have, this is there are very few hosts. It's sure, but it's just a matter of number. I've configured my central and my polar, so I'm monitoring them with dedicated templates from the plugin packs. And I have also a server that is running Debian, but I've never completed its configuration. So I've written a note here to complete it, but I never got the time. So it's been only pinged for several years, and now I can show you. I haven't created any host groups, any categories, etc. So only severities. So if I had only 3 hosts to monitor, it wouldn't be an issue, but I guess you all have more than 3. So doing it manually is time consuming. So let's see how host discovery can help you, even for already existing hosts.
All right, so that's a pretty interesting use case. You have already running Centreon, you have already configured many hosts, and you will add auto discovery on top of that to discover maybe more hosts or to complete the configuration.
Yes. To go back in the time, the first releases of Centreon Host Discovery only allowed to create new hosts, which was nice for deploying a new monitoring tool, but for users like you and me who have been using it for years, it's frustrating. It used to be frustrating because your only option was to create a double host, or to delete your former host and create a new one with the host discovery. other issue, if you had discovered your host using host discovery, you may have forgotten to configure some host groups, some templates, etc. In your in the host discovery job. But then once the host is created, you cannot.
Well, in the past, you
you couldn't change it with your with host discovery.
And now you can, and this is what you will demonstrate.
Yes, since the version 22.04, you can do it in automatic policy, and since 22.10, you can do it in manual mode. So first, let's have a look at my discovery job. I'm taking the SNMP agents as an example. You can do quite the same with the VMware VM discovery. It's quite similar. You can find other use cases, but I'll take this one because it's more simple for virtual machines running on my laptop. So I've created this job with all the default mappers, and I have added some mappers here. I will detail them with you. So the first one, I want to create host groups based on the subnet where I perform the discovery. So it's a parameter of the job, and to avoid double typing it several times, I will create it dynamically. So I've you have the ability to write down text, custom text in the mapper's definition. So you can combine and concatenate custom strings with informations that are returned by the discovery. So here I will create a host group named subnet dash, the name of the subnet. And I don't know, I may not know in advance how it will be named, but it will be created on the fly and linked to the host. Then I've also configured a host category mapper. It will, in the same way, create the category, and the name will begin with type dash, and then the type returned by the discovery plugin. So you will typically have Linux, Windows, Cisco, etc. And this will create the category and link the host to it as well. For severities, it's a bit different since severities don't just have a name, they also have a weight. So you have to create them before configuring the job, but actually it's just a matter of 3 or 4 severities. Actually, I don't think you'll need more. And I've configured it this way. So the default severity is P2 for less. It's less priority. The priority is lower than the P1. P1 is for hosts that contain the string webinar, since it's a very important event, of course. So I've shown and explained the configuration. Now,
so let me just recap to make sure. Yeah. Here you have created a job.
Yeah.
In this job there are the regular default mappers which choose the host template and this and that, and you have added more mappers to choose and create the host category, the host group, and choose the priority. And for the priority, you then have 2 mappers, one which will be applied to everybody, that's the default, and then the second one which only applies to those with name of webinar to change the...
Yes, you can use conditions with any mapper you like.
And you will run this job, and it will discover hosts, apply all these mappers, whether the host was already configured or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will save 25 seconds by not running it right now. We'll do it later, but I have done it earlier. So you have already you already have the result of the discovery. So the hosts that already existed are shown here. You can see the line is highlighted, and there's an icon at the beginning of the line
So the up
showing.
arrow, when the arrow is up, it
Yeah.
means that there is new information or new configuration.
Then you may apply new information to your host, and when you have the plus sign, it means that you may add the host to the monitoring configuration.
All right.
Now we'll try only with one host.
So here, this is the manual mode where you run the job. The job gives the information here, but doesn't do nothing until you click and you choose, yes, let's configure.
Yeah.
It's fully manual. You're in control.
I guess the ones above you that use Centreon Discovery are already doing like this, but anyway, it's a good practice, I think, to first try manually and for several hosts, and then when you're sure that your job is configured the right way, then you can switch to the automatic policy. So first, I apply it to the first one, the central server. So let's see it in the configuration. Well, you can see we have now gained a new template, and if I go to the configuration form, you'll see it has been linked to the new host group subnet and to the category type Linux. You can also see the severity has been set. So, okay, I'm happy with that. Let's export it. Just a small parenthesis about this button I just clicked. Maybe some of you are not familiar with it. It used to be disabled by default in versions until 2204. Since 2210, you have this button. This button is displayed as long as you have the right privileges to export the configuration. So it does exactly the same thing as what I'm going to do here. So you can select it. It applies to all pollers, the 4 actions here, and the reload method, and export. So here, all I've done here is the same as clicking here and here. So this new button,
a little shortcut to export the configuration in one click.
Yeah, this way you don't need to change to switch from the configuration menu to the poller menu to the and to the resources status.
All right, so let's go back to our auto-discovery job. But this time, so same job.
Know that I'm happy with what it does. I'm going to make it run automatically.
So that's the policy.
So here, by default, the automatic jobs will not update the host configuration. So you have to select this option to apply the changes to the already existing hosts. I have not said it earlier, but you know there are several types of mappers: property, macros, templates. Okay, the changes on the host do not apply to the property mappers. Property mappers are used to define the host name, the host alias, and the host IP. These information are too sensitive to be changed automatically. So the updating host does not apply to this mapper. It will affect macros, templates, host groups, categories, severities, and monitoring server. I'll also check this box, but I will explain it later. First, I want to save.
So same job, but this time you run it with the policy automatic, and you will run it for real that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've not scheduled my job, but I will run it manually.
Okay.
So now it's running. As I said earlier, I think it's about 25 seconds. Let's see my Debian server. It should gain the standard Linux services, and of course the host groups and the host categories that apply to it. And
so while it's running, maybe we can answer Matteo's question, which is if the host group is already present, the host will be added because we say create host group. So it will create the host group if it doesn't exist, but if it exists, it will just add.
Yes, it will use it already the already existing host group if it's exactly the same name.
Yeah.
And also hosts are recognized because they have the same name. If the name was different, if I had created my host as central, just central instead of central AL8, etc., then it wouldn't have identified it. Yeah, the name of the host is the key to link to recognize them. So my Debian server is now monitored a little more completely than earlier. We can see the severity P2 has been set, and the host group subnet corresponding to the subnet is set, and the category type Linux as well. So now I could remove the mention the TBD in the alias.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's have a look at the option, the last checkbox.
So you said, I will explain later what is this checkbox. This is the last one in the policy automatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
As you can see, there are 4 hosts in my discovered items, but the gateway has not been created. You still have only 3 hosts here. Actually, you can see no host template here.
Yes.
Because none of the mapper rules here have found a corresponding template. If I look at here, well, I have disguised my laptop in order to return this system description. So the plugin could not recognize it. It's of type unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So the plugin does not know what to do with it. The mappers do not recognize it
and cannot assign a host template.
And so normally in the previous versions, it would have been created with a default template. I'm pretty sure you can't read what is
so you will read it for us.
Which is appearing when I put my mouse here, but I'll read it. If the box is unchecked, the default template will be applied to these hosts, and they will be discovered. They will be monitored. Actually, in the previous versions, hosts were created and monitored even if no template, no value-added template had been found. So you got in Azure monitoring, you could have Azure cloud instances monitored, but with a dummy template which actually does not monitor anything. And we have added this option in order to avoid creating hosts that for which Centreon will not be helpful with.
Yeah.
So maybe we can maybe for this one I can find something, change the mappers and find the right template. But as long as I'm not sure, I won't monitor it.
All right.
You can see here in the parentheses that the generic active host template will be used. It will be different from a host discovery provider from another, from a plugin pack to another. So you have the information here if you need it.
Okay. So we've seen that you were able that time to run the same job, but in this automatic policy, and that was applied to all the hosts except the one where there was no template found because you had checked that little box at the end. Obviously, this job could be made running every day. That's another topic that we will not cover here. Once you're happy with your job, you will probably run it every day. Also here you were using the SNMP provider because it was easier to do the demo on your laptop, but there are many other providers for Azure, AWS, VMware, Wi-Fi things and other stuff. So all these providers are available to do auto discovery, and I guess your good practice is first create a job where you will add additional mappers to create categories, severities, host groups, and things like that. Then run it in the manual policy mode so that you can see the results, make sure it's working fine, and maybe do some adjustments.
Yeah.
And when you are happy, you will run it in automatic mode and maybe program it so that it happens every day or things like that.
And if you forgot something in the first run, then you can complete it with the second run, the third run,
Yes.
etc.
And you can add more mappers and augment your job so that your infrastructure is always better configured with more parameters and more things, and it's working even if you have already configured 5,000 hosts. You can still run auto discovery and complete enhance your configurations. It's not only when you start from scratch.
Yes.
All right, I think that was pretty clear. So we have questions. So the questions are bizarrely not in the questions and answers box, but in the room chat box. So I will try to go through them. So the first question is very simple. This is for me. Is this an option included natively, or do you have to contact ourselves? So this auto discovery option is part of the IT editions. So we have the open source edition and the commercial editions, several commercial editions, IT edition, business edition, MSP editions. All these commercial editions have auto discovery. It's only the open source version which does not have auto discovery. In fact, the IT editions, which is the entry-level commercial editions, brings three things. It brings support and maintenance contract. It brings all the plugin packs so that you don't have to create your own templates. And it brings the auto discovery engine, and the discovery rules and providers are part of the plugin packs. So if you are using commercial editions, IT, business, or even some older, the old name was EMS and IMP, you are this auto discovery feature is available to you. You can use it. The next question is a little bit more complex. This is about the host name, because you said that you cannot change the properties which define the host name, IP address, and alias. So here there is a long question from Manfred about FQDN and so forth. Is it possible to modify the host name with the FQDN is placed in the machine in our company, which is also used within Autodiscovery? There are short names. Is it possible to use, I don't know, regex, for example?
Well, we won't. I think we won't change the host name because it's quite dangerous. If you configure several jobs, one that will change the name in some way and another one in another way, you might have some difficulty following which host is which if the name changes every day. So,
but when we are, the very first
time, we won't change the name of an existing host, but we could add the feature to transform the data we receive from discovery using a regex, for example, and to remove the domain name from the FQDN, for example. We could do that in a further version.
Okay.
This could be done so as to create hosts with the name you want, and if you have already created the host with just a simple host name, and you discover a host with the FQD and you truncate the domain name part, and then you would be able, if we do that, you would be able to recognize it's the same host and merge the information to it.
So for now, the property which decides the host name is using the host name which is received.
You can change what information is used you can select another data from the discovery.
But you cannot apply your regex.
You cannot transform it
name yet. So in order to answer this, that's for future software release.
Yeah.
By the way, just we have this the watch is our user community platform where you can ask questions, but there's also a place called IDs where you can suggest improvement to the product and you can vote for improvements. And every software release we implement between 6 and 10 of these improvements, so don't hesitate to go and vote for improvements that have been suggested or create your own improvement. The next question is about something about auto delete in the Azure auto discovery for devices which are no longer available in Azure.
We have not yet worked on an auto delete feature. We have an auto disable feature that disables the resources, the hosts that can still be discovered but that are excluded by our exclusion mappers. Automatic deletion is a rather dangerous feature, so we are thinking of it, but we are cautiously waiting to implement it.
So it's under investigation. I guess we understand the problem. Some in this Azure tenant, some devices or services are not there anymore. We need to do something about them. And for now, we haven't quite figured out.
We would have to work with users in workshops to define what would be the right behavior for that, because It's not everyone will have the same idea, I think, and the same needs regarding that, and it depends if you're discovering cloud resources or network resources. A device on the network could stop answering, but doesn't mean we have discommissioned it. So
maybe something to discuss together.
Yeah, maybe.
Through the watch IDs or other mean, but just to make sure that we understand, how it would work before we start implementation.
Yeah.
Right. A simple question on how big can the IP range for auto-discovery be for the SNMP auto-discovery, which is the one which uses IP ranges?
I'm not sure there's a limit, but if you try with a too wide range, you might exceed the timeout, the global timeout of discovery job. I haven't shown it, but it's a good tip, I think, to reduce the timeout for each IP. It's 1 second by default. I think 0.1 or 0.2 is a better option to reduce the execution time. Well, you can try reducing the network mask and see what happens. There's no actual limit, I think, but I recommend using 24 bits masks.
Okay. Do we have plans for auto-discovery of the Oracle Cloud? We have Azure, we have AWS, maybe others. What about Oracle Cloud? Is it in your roadmap for
Not yet.
Not yet. So something to add to the roadmap.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oracle Cloud. All right. You can still ask questions in the question and answer. Or there was a question in the question and answers about duplicating jobs, auto-discovery jobs. Can you duplicate a job to have two variants of it? Or
well, not yet, but you might be pleased in the next release.
So the 2304, which will be available in April,
maybe
could implement this job duplication feature. Okay, let's wait for the release notes then. All right, do we have more questions? Let me look here. And I don't think so. All right, so you will receive a replay of this webinar that you can share with your colleagues. You will receive also a little survey so that you can tell us, what you would like us to talk in the webinars, what kind of webinars, technical webinars, is that the right format? So please tell us what you want us to say or, to organize for webinars, because all these webinars are for you. So please answer the survey. And you can also click a box saying that you want to be contacted by us to have further discussions on all these topics, whether it's technical or commercial discussions. All right, I think this is it. No more questions. Thank you all for joining and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.